to I've Walked in Your Shoes. Today is a special episode. We have Eli Rivas, the pastor of La Iglesia de la Verdad, of Truth Church, with us today. I'm looking forward to hearing his story and how God brought him back. And we also have my lovely better half with us, and she'll be chiming in like usual. So yeah, welcome, Eli.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
The reason for this episode, and then the following one with Melanie, and the next one after that with Naomi, is because we've all been backsliders, prodigals, and what we're trying to do is reach people that think that they're too far gone for God to help you. And so that's the reason that we've brought Pastor Eli. Yeah, we'd love to hear your story, and I know you're doing great things in the Spanish church, and I know that from when we used to hang out and whatnot, I never saw you becoming a pastor, and I never saw you having that want to help people, for souls. But here we are. Mm-hmm. Here you are. And tell us a little bit about
your story.
Okay, well, where do I start? Like Tony said, we all grew up together, and I guess we didn't realize growing up what we had. Like the old saying goes, what you have until you lose what you have. So I guess the way my wife puts it now, and is that I was a hopeless romantic. That's how she puts it. But I disagree with that. I think that was just a symptom of a deeper issue, and that was obviously a hard issue. At one point or another, every one of us will have to face a choice in life, and we face choices every day. But some choices are more substantial and more significant than others. And the choice for me was obviously whether or not I was going to live for God, and what was I willing to give up or trade in for God. And it so happened that how can I put it? Yeah, there came a time when I had to make a choice whether or not I wanted to live for God or not. And for me, it was someone that I considered very significant in my life at that time. And I felt significant, something that I think we all long to feel and to be significant. And I think at that time, part of it could have been lack of maturity. I looked for that significance in different places that I know I could have found in God.
Yeah.
So had I known my worth and my significance in God first, I think that a lot of different areas in my life would have been, I would have felt complete, and I would not have been so inclined to leave, to seek other things to fill that void or so. Yeah, I think that's where everything started.
Yeah.
And when I look back, it wasn't just that. It was different things. Even as little as well, not little, but so I started when you asked me to come on here, I started thinking what caused me to walk away from God. So I remember music was a big thing. Music to me was I loved R&B. I loved love songs, and little by little,
Romeo Santos.
little by little, that started supplementing my and I'm not saying you gotta listen to like choir music all the time or whatever, but little by little, and like the sin is progressive. You taste a little bit, and then you want more, and you want more.
Yeah.
So, and you're feeding yourself that daily.
Yeah.
Like love, and so you're like, oh my God, I need to be loved, because you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then the love, just the songs lead to other things.
Correct. Well,
like seduction and sex and right.
Well, to me, it led R&B little by little led to rap.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what does rap glorify?
Hardcore. Yo. No.
everything negative and yo.
Yeah.
And you're a yo-yo in church. You know what I mean? Because you feel bad, and then you're like, oh man, I got to get rid of this, and then you're up and you're down. You're up and you're down.
Yeah. One foot in, one foot out.
Exactly. So before you know it, you feel bad for everything you've done, and you're like, oh man, I'm irredeemable, and you're so far from where you started that you kind of throw in the towel, and you're like, you might as well because
might as well just leave.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, you know what? Not sorry to, and then you know how they preach about, and there's a scripture that says about warning about becoming lukewarm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
right.
I think when you start to do what you said, start to listen here, start to dabble into this, that's when you start to become lukewarm, and that's where pretty much to throw it all away.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because it is tough knowing what we had, and like you said, and then that the person that could help you, could love you, that you could just reach, he was right there all along.
Absolutely.
But no, we just decided to go up down this path, but I'm just so thankful that at least for myself, and I know you are as well, that God is so good and he's so forgiving.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but yeah, tell us a little more. It's I'm intrigued now.
Well, what else can I tell you? So I guess the biggest issue with that I struggled with was condemnation. So I felt, and it wasn't that God was condemning me. It wasn't that the
you
church.
were doing it to yourself.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because we're our own worst judge and enemy, because I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
And how can I be living a double life? I'm a hypocrite. And so little by little, I started growing, I guess, cold towards God, really.
Yeah.
Towards the church. I would start missing church, start staying home. And I guess I started, what was next? I guess it all revolved around
not Black Betty.
It all revolved around, I guess, friends, and that's another big thing. I think even for anyone that's in church, or out of church for that matter, that friends can really impact you in a good or a bad way.
Yeah.
Depending on who you're hanging out with.
Absolutely, because if you're hanging out people that are always smoking or drinking and partying, you're gonna be inclined to do all that. Right. And then so I completely get that part, and that's we were discussing that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but at the same time, I think as you mature, right, sometimes you can abstain from all those things.
You don't want to participate.
If you don't want to participate.
Yeah.
And also what I said yesterday is like, I think a big thing of it is God. Like I have no, I don't know. I have going to the bar, going to parties, drinking, cigarettes, weed, gummies, which were my favorite, but now I don't need them, right? It's because, I don't know, I'm just always high on God.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. There's people that say that, and I get it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just, I don't even know how to put it.
And it's funny to me when you were talking, Eli, and you said that it's something that you give up. But is it really that you're giving something up? Did you really give anything up? Or did you get something better by making that choice?
By coming back to church?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I did.
Like, I've heard so many people say that they've given something up for it. But I know in my experience, I haven't given anything up.
Yeah.
I've gained because I've gone back, because I've gone to church, because
Right.
because I've looked for something that fills some of those voids. I've gained, but I don't feel that I've given something up.
I don't think he meant it in
Right?
that context. Where
No,
it's,
but
you know, yeah.
but that's what it's not just him. I've heard a lot of people
Oh, yeah.
say, "Oh, you've
I've
gotta
given up
give
smoking.
that up. You've
Given
gotta
up.
give it
yeah.
up."
Give
Why
up my
do you
friends.
have to- you don't have to give anything up.
Right.
You have to go in with an open mind of what you can gain, what you stand
Yeah.
to gain. It's a selfish thing, and that's also something that in women especially, but people in general are afraid to be selfish, and sometimes you have to be. So this is a decision that I made for myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't do it for you, I didn't do it
No.
for the kids, I didn't do it for my friends, I didn't do it for my family. I did it for myself.
Yeah.
And the way I see it, if any of those people around me have a problem with the decision I've made, then they can choose not to be a part of it. And that's their choice.
Yes.
It's not something I've done.
No.
And so I just hear all the time that people are giving something up. I truly don't believe that when you look to God that you're giving anything
Ooh.
up.
Well, you're trading in.
Yes, but that's
You're trading in
That's-
for example, me.
Right.
I traded in, and this might sound cheesy and stuff, but
Mhm.
this is my reality. I mean, I had like we talked about yesterday. We had baggage and
Yeah.
everything that comes along with those decisions you made.
Yeah.
And you trade that in.
yeah.
And I mean, you already mentioned it. Look where I am now, and that's
Mm-hmm.
all for the
Mercy.
glory
Yeah.
and grace of
Yeah.
God that I'm where I'm at, not
Yeah.
because I did anything good.
No.
And that's a testimony to everyone that's out there.
Yeah.
If look what God has done for me, and not
Yes.
because, like I said earlier, not because of anything I've done,
No.
Right.
but because of everything God's done for me,
Yeah.
and for being able to say, God, I need you,
Yeah.
and recognize where I was, and
Yeah.
submit myself to Him, and
Yeah.
take that step of faith, because it is difficult coming back.
It is.
It's hard.
It is difficult. It is difficult. I completely agree with you there, because at the same time, I don't know what it is. I think, to tell you the truth, it's mostly in your own mind, in your own head,
Yeah.
right? And then it's just everything plays, and then you think about friends, you think about, oh, what is this person going to think, or this friend over here, and it is hard, and it is hard. I don't think it's hard to come back in the sense of, because at least when I came back, all the stuff that I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing still, like drinking, drugs, right? Occasionally here and there. I don't need that. I gave it up, right? So that wasn't hard.
No,
But the mental
correct.
You
was
didn't give it up though. You said it again. You made a choice
you made a choice.
to live a different way.
Yes.
And that's what it is, right?
We're getting
It
directed
is,
left and right here.
But it's true.
Yeah, no, I get it. Dave.
Really, like when you think back to those days, how many days did you wake up when you had been out partying the night before? You probably felt really great the next morning when you woke up and you said, "Man, let's
do it
go and
again."
do that again." And you never said it with joy. It was always, "Ugh, I feel like crap." And then you'd start to feel better throughout the day, and then it was, "All right, let's go do it again." But you never woke up saying, "Oh, what a great day.
I don't know that
It's
person.
a great day to be alive." Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely get that, and I agree with that, but I don't know, I think it's just
it's different. Your experience is different because for you guys it is going back. And I think that's probably one of the things that makes it hardest for a lot of the people. I don't like the word backsliders. I really don't like the word. But
it's in the Bible.
that's just fine. Jesus, I don't like your word.
Okay.
I don't like it. But I think that's one of the hardest parts for a lot of people in not coming back is that perceived judgment that they're going to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in some cases, yeah, you're probably right. You are going to be judged. People are going to judge you. But at the same time, I think that judgment is more love than it is judgment. And I think what people are seeing, and I've said it to you before, I think what people are seeing is, oh, they're coming back to church. It's really great to see them here. And I don't think that it's coming from a negative place. I think it's coming from a loving place. I think most of those people, at least in our experience and what I've seen you go through since we've been going, those people have really embraced you. And they're seeing in you things that they saw in you as a kid. Like Brother Mullen said to me the other day, he's like, when we were talking, and he's like, I haven't seen Tony this full of God since he was a kid. And like, so there's things like that are happening. And I think that that's more of what's coming, is that it's not necessarily judgment. You might think it's judgment, but I think people are just watching what's happening to you and through you. And it's more love-based and it's more support-based than it is judgment.
I wish I could see that. Right? No, I do. I wish I could see that, because for me, it's, I don't know. I think I'm, like you said, you're your own worst enemy or your own worst critic, right?
You're not assuming positive intent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm not doing enough. For me, I'm not reaching anyone. Right. Or for me, it's, I don't know, but at the same time, I think it's the same thing as even when you do come to church. It's all in your head when you are in church, because I think that's one of the things that the devil uses, is tries to get in your head and say, well, you know what? This isn't working. Right, who's come back? Right? And it just so you give up. Right? But I'm just here to tell Satan right now that we don't give up. Amanda and we're go-getters. We don't give up. And
the fact of the matter is,
you lost my train of thought.
The fact of the matter is, go ahead, keep trying.
Yeah.
It's just like those people we were talking before we started this episode today. You want to hate on me? Go ahead. You're my best advertisement. You go out there in the world and you talk all the trash you want about all these things that I'm talking about on this podcast today. Go ahead. And every single person that tunes in and listens, thank you. I really hope you get something from something that we've said. Yes. And to me, it doesn't matter if you are not a person that has ever looked to God, if you're not a person that is looking for religion, just listen to it. It's not just about religion. It's about our lives individually and collectively, and what we're doing, what we did, what we've walked through, the things that we've overcome. It's not just about where we are today and our relationships with God, because that's an individual thing.
Yeah.
And I think that each individual that listens to this will take from it what they will. But if it brings one person out of 500 that might listen to it to say, I wonder if there's something that God could do for me. Yeah. Or that God could do with me.
Yes.
If there's one person that questions it, that's all that's needed.
Right. That's all
just has to be one person to get curious.
It will have been worth it all.
And then that one person can lead to another 500 people hearing about it, and then another person joins or another person tunes in. It's not just to say like you have to go to church. Just be curious about it. Start asking questions. Start looking for something bigger than yourself.
Yes. So back to you, since you're in the hot seat. When was it that you realized that you had to change?
Choice to make.
You had to get away from the same old, get away from rock bottom. When was it that you realized, and could you share when that happened and how it happened?
I think it was, we talked about it briefly. I think the last time that I drank, because I was, again, you start dabbling, and I'm all over the place, but you start dabbling with, for example, alcohol. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, it becomes a coping mechanism.
An addiction, yeah.
It's you cope with it. Yeah. So I was heartbroken. I was sad. I was living here alone. My parents were in the States. Actually, all my family was. I think, yeah, you remember that. I was here alone. And you and I had gone out that night. And on the way home, I drove off while I was going. I can't even remember, to be honest with you. All I can remember from that night is when I went off, I drove off the road. I hit a traffic sign, and the traffic sign went right through my windshield and into the passenger side of the vehicle. So I passed out, and I remember waking up to the ambulance knocking on my window. So I think that was a big wake up call for me.
Yeah.
And there was numerous times when I would get home, and I would, in the next morning, I would actually drive or walk around my vehicle and think, how in the world did I not hit anything?
To see if you'd hit
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And man, that's scary.
That is very scary.
When your level of, like, you have to be that intoxicated just to
Function.
well, and you do it every weekend, right? And
Yeah.
and that's just what you do. And maybe not everyone is there, and I understand that, but that's where I was.
Yeah.
And because it never starts with, and it was always, we'd go out for, let's go for one drink, and it was never that. It would always,
one drink would lead to another, and then to another, and then we'd end up in at the house, right? And then I think, if I remember correctly, that was one of the times that you came to the house,
yeah,
and that's when we had
That's when we lived in Airdrie.
Airdrie. And then I remember that night, because you called. You say you don't remember that you called for me to come pick you up, but I was in the same state that you were in.
right.
Right.
You came and woke me up too.
Yeah, and then
Well, dude, it was cold out too. It was like,
Yeah.
it was a cold night.
Yeah.
And I think actually, I drove off the ditch. I mean, I couldn't, my car wasn't, it was
drivable.
No, it was.
Wow.
So then I walked around. I think I remember that because I called my family, and then I called you. But man, it was cold.
Oh wow.
It was cold.
Yeah, but when those things happen, like now, can you see that? Like, what I realized is, because a similar thing happened to me. I totaled a vehicle into my house was right here on the corner, and the post was right here next to the house. And I went right in the post and totaled my car when I was living in New York. And one thing that I realize now is that I shouldn't have survived that, if you look at the car, right? But even through those times when we were not close to God, he had his hand on us.
Absolutely.
Because, like you said, that sign coming through the windshield and into the seat, like, if it would have been over,
right,
you wouldn't be here to testify about that, right? So that's one thing, just things that have happened to me when I haven't been, like I said before, in one of the early, I didn't even think about God at that time. Him having his hand on me, he knows.
He was faithful to you when you weren't.
That's the thing, is like, he has a purpose for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? He has a purpose for us, and I don't know. I'm just so grateful that for me it wasn't too late. I know that for some of our peers that have left, it's late.
It has been too late.
It has been too late, and that's part of the reason that it's weighed so much on my heart that I wanted to do this podcast, because for some of you out there that have known God and have experienced God and have had a relationship with him, and you know what it feels like, and you know he's the answer, it's not too late for you to reach out to him, right? And just like, look at this fine gentleman right here. From where he was to where God has brought him now, it's a miracle.
Well, who would have thought?
Right?
Who would have thought when you and I, when all of us were sitting on the bar stool?
Yeah.
And you know what the funny
That
thing
this is where we'd be 20 years later.
Correct. How many times did you and I talk about God when we were in our drunken stupor, and we would reminisce about the the good old days at church. And do you remember?
I do remember.
So there was for me that to me that means that there's a little part of us
Yeah.
that's still.
Oh, there was always a part of
Yeah.
it in me as well. Like Amanda sometimes before would make fun of me because I'd just randomly start singing a church song, and then she'd be like, "Oh, there you go with one of your church hymns again," right? And because I just randomly start to sing one, right? Or I just tell her a story about. I remember when my grandma used to bake bread and start singing these Christian songs in the morning. That's what we'd wake up to, right, and stuff like that. And one thing I've always said is I've always known what I believe and what I've been taught. I've never lost that, right? Although I lost a lot of...
No, sometimes you just turn the volume down.
Yeah, but I've lost a lot of, I don't know, I guess morals is what you lose. A lot of your morals when you go down the path of sin, and you don't care what it is. You're just like a...
I don't know if that's entirely true though either, because I think you always still did care.
Yeah, care is different than losing your morals.
You always did
though.
care. You just didn't pay attention to how you felt about it.
Yeah.
Because if you paid attention to how you felt about it, you'd actually have to think about what you were doing. So you kind of just set that on the back burner and just keep going with what you're doing. You don't put any thought into it, because putting thought into it requires that conscious awareness of what you're doing and knowing that it's wrong.
Yeah. But at the same time, once you get over a certain point or that you lose that conviction, or that you don't care. Like, you don't care about that moral. Like, you just go ahead and do it, is what I'm saying. Right? And then sometimes you lose that. Like you said, you start with a little sin here, like R&B mixes and whatnot.
And it sounds like, I mean, harmless. I mean, come on, R&B.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And perhaps it is, but there's a scripture that the Bible says that a little leaven leaveneth the loaf, I think is what it says.
Yeah.
So when you're constantly feeding yourself that and listening to that, it's going to impact you.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to impact you.
It's like it's like if I don't know. I think Amanda has heard me sometimes before bed. I'll pray in the morning. I'll pray. While I'm driving, I'll pray, and then I know if I miss a day or two, I know that I've missed a day or two because I'm extra crabby. She's like, "Well, now I'm
Crabby Patty."
Now I know what to say.
I'm extra crabby. I'm just, I don't know. It's just weird. But as soon as I turn back to saying a prayer and just asking God to guide my day and to watch over my kids, watch over my wife, and just like that, it's like that, like sin's not gonna get in. Sort of like if you listen to R&B all the time, R&B, and you don't pray, and you don't pray, then that takes over, right?
Right.
But if you're saying prayers and you're constantly talking with God and you're constantly...
I'm hearing your dad again. It's all about balance. It's all about balance.
And then it's I think that's a big thing, is if you're constantly doing things that he doesn't agree with, right? Then that's when you start to... If you want to close it out in Spanish.
Okay, well, una vez más, gracias al hermano Tony por habernos invitado a estar con ustedes. Y para todos nuestros oyentes de habla español, por favor, sintonicen con nosotros. Y pensamos y estamos planificando hacer una sesión, unas series en español. Y para compartir con ustedes lo que el Señor ha hecho en nuestras vidas, de dónde nos ha traído. Y también para servirles de testimonio a ustedes que el Señor lo puede hacer para ustedes y con ustedes y a través de ustedes. Así que gracias por estar con nosotros, les amamos y sigan sintonizando para ver contenido en español en el futuro. Dios los bendiga y el hermano Tony va a cerrar.
En 3 semanas, digamos. Diferente nombre, Mismo mensaje en español. Thanks for watching, and we're praying for you guys. We love you guys, and he's knocking on your door. He's there waiting. Stay blessed.